ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Stuff That Screams Are Made Of. My name is Steve, and I'm the host of this show. And my other host, who's also a horror movie enthusiast, is...
Mark Duvall. Happy to be here.
I'm happy to be here too. Mark, what are we doing here? What are we talking about? And why?
We are here to discuss the film Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock.
Before we talk about anything, I know you just said maybe we'd go this way. Psycho. That is like a powerful word. I feel like when you hear that name, like just the way it sounds, Psycho, it sounds like powerful. It sounds like the hard consonants. Mm-hmm. It's like, what am I getting myself into? What is this? Like, I can't help but think that the popularity of this movie like has something to do with just the word, right?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds you of the term psychopath, and anything involving a psychopath or a sociopath brings attention.
I'm with you.
It makes you stop and listen and read and look and see what's going on there.
Psycho. I don't know. It's just a good word. I like words. Anyways, tell me some more words about Psycho.
Well, words about Psycho. Well, Psycho is based on a novel by Robert Bloch.
Push by Sapphire? No.
Different person.
Have you read the novel?
I have read the novel. It's a very short novel. My copy was under 200 pages.
Okay.
Basically, everything on the screen just came from the novel. They didn't leave much out. There's a couple of changes that I'd say the biggest change is Norman Bates' character is more of an overweight alcoholic with a tendency to be obsessed with adult media. So he wasn't the goody two-shoes looking Norman Bates, and he was much older too. So he wasn't like the young Anthony Perkins, who seemed like a nice goody two-shoes type person.
Yeah, which almost makes it creepier.
Yeah, I think it worked in the film's favor. Yeah. That's one of the only changes. Some of the deaths are a little different, but other than that, it's basically the novel adapted to film.
Okay, so talk to me about Hitchcock. Where is this within his movies? Where, what year did this come out?
Came out in 1960. I mean, he had been making films since the silent era. So, since, like the late 20s, early 30s. So this is actually late in his career.
Okay.
He didn't make that many movies after that. This is, after Vertigo. This is after Rear Window. This is after North by Northwest. This is after... One of his only notable films that came out after this was probably The Birds, and a couple others. But yeah, this is a late career Alfred Hitchcock film.
What's your favorite Hitchcock movie? I'm asking that, and I'm like, I hope he doesn't ask me that myself because I don't know the answer to that. But
Rear Window is probably my favorite.
Okay, I like that one.
Or this.
Yeah.
One of these two. I mean, he has a lot of classics. He's one of the top directors of all time. No worse than like third or fourth all time.
Okay.
Maybe first. But that's Alfred Hitchcock. Should go into the plot synopsis?
Yeah.
Okay. While you're doing that. So the movie begins with Marion Crane and her boyfriend, Sam Loomis, who they want to get married, but
Wait, hold on. Even before that, the opening credits, the music in that is like intense, and it's like...
Bernard Herrmann.
Who is it?
Bernard Herrmann.
What are some more things that person has done?
Hitchcock stuff.
He's a lot of Hitchcock?
Yeah.
Okay, that's intense. And then another thing I wrote down was the opening panning establishing shot of the city reminds me of Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
Was that like something that was done a lot at the time, or like, is that like...
Yeah, I think that was sort of like a way to establish, where we're going. They start, Phoenix, and it's...
Yeah.
Nice wide shot, and then you get closer to the apartment building or the hotel that they're staying at, and then you go into the hotel. And it starts off, a scene that for its time was considered racy.
I even took that note down. It's a couple in their underwear, and they've probably just been up to something naughty.
In bed. So they would like to get married, but he has money problems. So she's upset that she can't get married to her boyfriend. So she comes up with the grand scheme of stealing $40,000 in cash from her employer, which she didn't think through too well, but she takes the money. She drives all the way from Phoenix to Sam's hometown of Fairvale, California. She switches cars a few times. She tries to avoid a creepy cop. She thinks she's got through it all, and she finally ends up on a road that's sort of off kilter, off the highway, and she needs somewhere to stop, and she sees the sign for the Bates Motel.
Which I've seen this movie before, and I kind of, when you think of Psycho, you think of the Bates Motel, literally. Yeah. And I was like, it's 26 minutes before you even get to it.
Yeah.
And I really like the way that they tell the story. And it's like, it seems like, oh, you're following these people, and like, this is the main character.
Yep. Janet Leigh as Marion Crane was the biggest name in the movie, and she was expected to be the heroine of the movie. And so she ends up at Bates Motel, meets Norman Bates. She ends up sharing a meal with him. He starts venting about his difficult relationship with his mother. And she says, well, why don't you just send her somewhere? And that was the wrong thing to say to Norman Bates.
Right.
Because then she, at night, she just takes a shower. I believe she decides she's going to return the money, but it's too late for her. She's taking a shower, and a veiled character in a wig creeps up to the shower and stabs her to death many times.
Which that shower scene is like the famous shot.
Pretty much the most iconic murder scene in the history of movies, probably. I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah. The most iconic murder scene in the history.
Yeah.
Isn't it
it's
like,
up there.
It's like, what is it, like 100 and something shots?
Yeah,
packed
there
like,
were so many different shots. They had to do a lot of editing for it because obviously they couldn't show nudity, but they needed to have a woman in a shower, so they just kind of like adjusted the camera to make it. And they didn't actually really show much stabbing.
I was thinking that
like
too,
there was one moment where you can kind of see the tip of the knife enter her body, but it's more of like a shadow effect. So this isn't like a full-on gore effect or anything like that. This is just like, someone going like this with a knife and them spraying Hershey's chocolate all over the floor to make it look like blood.
Oh, okay, hold on. This is another note. You know what is Psycho? Who turns on the shower while you're standing under the water?
That is something I don't do.
Nobody does that. Maybe she's the psycho because you're supposed to turn on the water, let it warm up for a second, touch it. If it's your house, you know how long it's going to take, like 2 seconds or 10 seconds. But if you're in a crazy hotel, you don't just turn it on.
She's just...
Come on!
She stands in there and just turns it on and just goes
right
into her face. I know. Very
That's
unusual.
probably what people were watching it were thinking.
They were like,
oh, this is the psycho that they were talking about. Who turns on the what? Sorry.
So Norman finds the body and says, oh, Mother, what have you done? So at that point, we still don't know the whole truth about Mother. Takes her body and all her belongings, puts it in the trunk of her car, and sinks her car into the swamp. Meanwhile, the company that got the $40,000 stolen from them sends a private investigator to the Bates Motel, and this guy just has to interview Norman once to know he's full of crap. So he tries to follow Norman into the house, and he goes up the stairs and has an unfortunate encounter with Mother, and he gets stabbed and falls down the stairs, so he's dead as well. Eventually, Sam and Marion's sister Lila meet up because they're both worried about Marion, and they travel to the Bates Motel themselves. And
I kind of would have wanted to watch. I feel like if this were a more modern movie, and I mean, again, we'll talk about remakes in a few minutes, I'm sure. But I feel like there would have been more like those two characters. I felt like they just kind of showed up out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Like Sam and Marion?
Like, I feel like there would have been a little bit more like in the beginning. Like, it was cool how, you're following one person. Oh, this is the main character. Oh, no, she's gone.
She's dead.
Oh, now this is the main character. Oh, no, now they're dead. And then it's like, kind of after it follows Norman for a little bit, it almost feels like it doesn't necessarily follow the couple, the sister, and who's the guy?
Sam.
But it almost feels like it's kind of a little bit all over the place. Like it almost feels like maybe if it were more established with them a little bit at the beginning, then like if it held my hand a little bit more. Is that what am I asking for?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can see that. Lila just kind of shows up after everything. I mean, Sam had been there, but I mean, Lila just walks into Sam's like department store,
Yeah.
her hardware store,
Right, same,
and is like, "Where's my sister? You must know." And then he's
Right.
like, "I don't know."
Because even though Sam's there, it's
yeah.
almost following the sister a little
Right.
more, and you're like, you know, you don't think of
Lila becomes the new heroine of the film, or the
Yeah.
true heroine of the film. And so they drive back to the motel, and they have some odd encounters with Norman. But what essentially happens is that Lila sneaks into the house, Norman knocks Sam out, and Lila finds the real Norman's mother in the fruit cellar as a mummified corpse. And she is then attacked by Norman dressed as his mother, and but they're overcome. Norman's stopped by Sam, and then there's a kind of a lengthy psychiatrist monologue at the end of the movie.
It was
where they
very
have to kind of like
yeah.
explain what it is.
That I was like, I don't know about that. Like,
Probably
that was
didn't
almost a
need
little
it.
too much. Yeah.
That was like I feel like they kind of added that just to like. You have to remember, movies needed an explanation.
The hand-holding,
back
yeah.
then.
Right.
This was right in the middle of what was called the Hays Code, where there were certain things you couldn't have. You couldn't have villains. Villains always had to have their comeuppance.
Right.
You know, we know what censors wouldn't allow certain things, and so they felt that they needed to tack this on to wrap things up for the audience. It's like,
yeah, okay.
So the psychiatrist is like, oh, Norman was riddled with guilt because he killed his mother, and now he became his mother, and all this stuff. And they're just like we can pick that up on our own.
Exactly. It
really
almost seemed like
need
too
that.
much. It was a very satisfying climax. I wrote that down. I'm like,
yeah.
But then it's like, then there's a little bit more, and you're like, all right, come on, like, really?
Right. But that was a product of its time, I believe.
Yeah, I can see that. All right. But it's great. It's great. Right?
It is. I mean, I've always considered it probably the most influential horror movie of the latter half of the 20th century.
You say that every time we're in front of these cameras.
I feel like I do, but in this situation, you kind of have to think about what came before in horror, and you're like Frankenstein, Dracula, The Mummy,
Yeah.
gothic horror of that sort. This is a horror movie that is in the present day at the time, with real characters, no monsters, and no supernatural.
Right.
This is a real person. This is a psychological thriller, and it's also a horror movie. And that, along with there's a movie called Peeping Tom that came out the same year. Those were like the first two films that I believe eventually turned into what the slasher genre became. We talked about Halloween, and Halloween owes a lot of debt to Psycho. Not surprisingly, Sam Loomis, the character in this movie, is Dr. Loomis in Halloween.
Okay.
Of course, Janet Leigh's daughter is Jamie Lee Curtis, who was in Halloween. So Carpenter was definitely a fan of Psycho and a fan of Hitchcock. But this is a very influential film, no doubt, but also very controversial at the time of its release.
Why? Why was it so controversial? Tell me more.
Well, the opening scene, of course, showing a man and a woman in a state of undress was something that wasn't really shown.
I recall the code was like, literally thinking about, like, I don't think was it against the code? Like, were they like?
They didn't. So, like, the censors would complain that, it's sort of an interesting story, because the censors complained to Hitchcock about the shower scene.
Yeah.
First of all, they said it was, we saw too much, it needs to be cut. We need to cut shots of, there's too much of the woman's flesh, there's too much of the blood, even though it's Hershey syrup.
Wow. Okay, again, okay, yeah. Hershey syrup.
Yeah.
I wrote this down too, and I was looking it up. Do you think the black and white was a choice to make it creepy? Like, it seemed like color was a lot more like, that's kind of when color started to come up, like in the early 60s. Like, it was in color.
Hitchcock actually made the film in black and white to save on the budget.
Okay.
But it worked in his favor.
Right.
And he used the syrup as opposed to stage blood, because the consistency is more natural to actual blood, according to, I guess we'll have to take their word for it. But
okay.
Yeah, so the shower scene, the censors are like, no, not this, not this. So he goes, and they were like, we also don't like the beginning scene with the bras, with the bra and the bed and everything like that. So he's like, okay, this is what we'll do. If you let me keep the shower scene will reshoot the opening with their clothes on completely. So it won't be like they just made love in the bed or anything like that. I'll tell you when we're going to reshoot the scenes. He never did. So they never came back and saw, because he never reshot them. So they never showed up.
So they agreed to it. They stamped it.
They agreed to keep the shower scene in, but he also didn't have to reshoot the beginning.
Cool. Smart.
A very weird thing about the Hays Code at the time was that flushing toilets were not a thing in cinema or television.
Right.
Once the Hays Code came along, there were movies from the 20s and 30s that would show before the Hays Code, but
hold on, wait. Didn't she tear something up and throw it into the toilet? But she couldn't flush it?
Right.
And that's why they found it later.
Yeah, it's an important plot point in the movie.
Right.
Right. So you need to have that scene in there. So he's just like, I'm going to have a flushing toilet in my film, and they're like, what? Like, we don't do that in movies. And he's like, well, now we do, and he kept it. The movie ended up being heavily censored, not in the United States so much, but in the United Kingdom, they didn't get an unedited cut until 1986. If you can believe that.
Wow.
So that's just one of the things.
Wow.
When they released the film, Hitchcock wanted a no late admission policy, meaning if the movie is started, they don't let anybody else in. You have to be there before it starts.
Interesting.
He wanted to do that because he thought that people would come in and late, and maybe they would see that Janet Leigh's already dead or something. They would feel cheated because she was supposed to be the star of the movie.
Okay.
Eventually, it helped because the theater owners were like, I've got lines around my building now to see this movie,
which kind of drums up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone wants to see this movie now, and it was a huge success at the box office. It made $50 million, which in today's money is over $500 million.
Wow.
So for a horror movie, that's pretty impressive.
Especially,
and the budget was less than $1 million.
Yeah.
So it was like $800,000
You're doing
of his
Kevin
own money.
Smith style in black and white.
Completely financed by Alfred Hitchcock. He used the sets of his TV show, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and for the indoor scenes, and he used the Universal set and they built the Bates Motel.
Cool.
Ooh, now you.
No, I lost my train of thought. It's okay. We lost it. Okay, we lost it.
Just a little bit about how it came to be and everything like that. A lot of people do mention that it's loosely inspired by the crimes of Wisconsin murderer Ed Gein.
That's what it was. I found it. I remembered it. Okay, have you ever been to the movie theater?
A few times.
One of the things I like about the new thing going in movie theaters, I brought my son recently. It tells you the movie time, and it says, heads up, we'll have 20 to 25 minutes of previews and commercials. I so appreciate that they tell you that now.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I hate to watch previews because it gives away too much of the movie.
I don't like watching trailers.
Okay, good. We're on the same page.
I never watch them. I go in blind. Got to go in blind.
I know. I like it. I saw Project Hail Mary, and it was like, I didn't know like a big important plot point in that, which...
I probably know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I didn't know, so it was delightful. Anyways, spoiler alert. No, I'm not going to tell you. Go watch Project Hail Mary in the theaters. No, it's out by now. May the 4th be with you.
But no, this is August.
It's fine. I know. I know.
We can go back to how Hitchcock became aware of it. He was basically, I had already said Ed Gein was... it was loosely inspired by his crimes. Robert Bloch actually wrote 90% of the novel before Ed Gein's crimes were even unearthed, and so he just sort of added a blurb at the end of the novel about Ed Gein, comparing it to. So I wouldn't necessarily say that this movie is that close to Ed Gein. We will see more films that are related to Ed Gein. There's unfortunately a lot. Texas Chainsaw is one of them. And basically, Hitchcock's assistant just decided to go to the bookstore and pick up a bunch of horror books and see if Alfred wanted to adapt any of them. And he was like, "No, I hate this. No, I hate this." But then he gets to Robert Bloch's Psycho, and he's like, "Not only do I want to do this, I want you to go out and buy every copy you can find because I don't want anyone else to know how the movie ends.
Cool.
So, yeah, this was essentially the movie that, even though he had been a successful director before, he became really rich from this movie.
Okay.
He essentially became the head of Universal because of this movie.
Wow.
And he had carte blanche to make any movie he wanted to after that. But he kept the budget under $1 million, which is even for that time is pretty impressive considering how much movies cost.
You said he invented the word for what this is?
I'm not sure if
Maybe.
he invented the word. The MacGuffin is like the plot point that doesn't really actually have anything to do with what happens in the movie. A famous one would be the Maltese Falcon. The Maltese Falcon has nothing important to do with the actual movie book Maltese Falcon. So they call it a MacGuffin. I don't know where that name comes from, but Hitchcock was one of the people that was around when that term came about. So the money is sort of the MacGuffin in this movie.
Yeah.
Where's the money? Well, the money ends up at the bottom of the swamp, and is never recovered. And I guess it doesn't matter.
It's recovered. They pull a car out.
We can talk about maybe some of the initial reception of the film. Polarizing. The New York Times, I always feel like the New York Times gets all these wrong because every time I'm here, the New York Times says these movies suck.
It's fine.
It was like,
New York Times to have their opinion.
Said it was a low-budget series of ineffective shocks. Other critics called it a blot on an honorable career. Hitchcock had, a TV show padded out to 2 hours, and others just walked out of the movie completely because they were like, "This is too much for me. We can't do it." Yeah. But some critics did agree that it was probably the best American film to come out during the Hays Code era that stands with the European films that were being made at the time because they didn't have the Hays Code, so Europe could make whatever it wanted to. They were making thrillers like Diabolique and all these great French films, and they didn't have to deal with Uncle Sam telling them, no, you have to, the bad guy has to lose in every movie. So it did get, it also got some Academy Award nominations, did not win any. Best Director, Best Supporting Actress, Best Art Director, and Best Cinematography. Didn't win. I did not look up which movies did win, but I imagine they're not as memorable as, maybe Spartacus might be because that was 1960, but that's probably a case of the Academy Awards maybe getting it wrong. Maybe they should have given Best Direction to Hitchcock. I would say so.
I could see that, yeah. We're saying that without having the list in front of us. Watch 5 other of the greatest films of all time.
I know Spartacus was one of them. The other ones,
I like Spartacus, yeah.
I know, it's a great movie, Stanley Kubrick, but the other ones, who cares? But I don't know. I guess some of the themes of the film we can discuss.
Yeah.
I would say that just crushed hope is a theme. Marion and Sam.
No wonder I loved it so much.
Marion and Sam have all these hopes for their future, and his debts are preventing them from being married. And Marion tries to get the money, and she realizes she makes a mistake, and she has a change of heart, but it's too late. Norman's already seen you, and Norman already wants to kill you, and she can never. She's never able to make things right. She dies hopelessly in a room. And all the things that she wanted, marriage, a home, a family, is taken away from her. So
why did Norman like birds so much?
Well, Norman they wanted to, that's from the book, they wanted to show how he was good at taxidermy because he also used taxidermy on his mother.
Right.
So that was showing you what he was really up to, showing the stuffed birds looming over. There's a scene where Marion's sitting in the hotel office and all the stuffed birds are casting shadows over her, and it's foreshadowing what is going to happen to her in a way. I always feel like the reflections were big in the Psycho. Marion looking into the rearview mirror, and looking into the sunglasses of the cop. That was a real creepy scene. That
shadows too, you mentioned too.
Yeah,
shadows and reflections.
Shadows and reflections are big themes in this film. Birds itself, I mean, Marion Crane, she's from Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
There's birds on the wall of the Bates Motel and in the Bates house.
Were the Bateses wealthy? When you go into that house, you're like, wait, what is this, like a palace? Like,
I feel like they were, I think the backstory there is sort of like they used to be on a main road and got a lot of business at the hotel, and then like they built a highway came in and then they sort of lost their finances. The father dies, and Mrs. Bates ends up shacking up with another guy that Norman ends up hating, and Norman ends up killing them both. They touch on that, or they at least show it in the fourth Psycho movie, which has a lot of flashbacks to Norman's childhood.
Hold on, how many movies are there?
There are actually 5 Psycho movies. One of them is a remake that came out.
The shot-for-shot remake, right?
The shot-for-shot remake with Vince Vaughn that came out in 1998 and was received terribly by everybody. It was just one of those. It's not like bad, but it's just like why did you make this movie? This movie did not need to exist. If you're gonna make a Psycho remake, you should add something to it, but you added nothing to this. You just made the movie over again.
So what's Psycho 2?
Psycho 2 is, I actually thought it was pretty good. It's a standard slasher. The premise off the bat is a little suspicious because Norman Bates is released from prison on parole, and it's like, but he killed like 6 people. Like people, that doesn't really happen. Okay. So that kind of threw me off right away. I'm like, why are they releasing
What year was it released?
83, so it was 23 years later. Norman is running the hotel again. He's got a job at a diner, and the murders start up again. No, I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it ends up being not who you think it is. So the killer ends up being someone else. But then Psycho 3 came out a couple of years later, and Norman went back to being the killer again. Because they were like, no, we'll just, he got better, but then he didn't.
Got it.
And then Psycho 4 is somehow he got released again.
Sure.
After like 11 murders.
This time he's really reformed.
Right. And he's married, and he spends most of the movie talking on the phone with the talk show host about his upbringing, and then the movie is just.
This sounds familiar. Did I?
It was on HBO. It was like an HBO original. It was. He's on the phone with a talk show host, and he's like, "This is how my life was growing up," and then they flash back to him and his mother being really inappropriate and creepy with him. A lot of stuff going on there that they didn't need to have. But yeah, it was a heavy rotation on HBO during the 90s. So maybe
there must have been some like podcast that talked about it, or I don't
Psycho
know.
4 the beginning, it's called.
Eric Trageser, former guest of the show of last month, is probably screaming at the TV right now because he knows why I know it, and it's fine. It's fine. But he'll tell me. Psycho 5. Wait, so when was Psycho 4? When did
Psycho 4 came out in the early 90s. It was like 90 or something like that.
Then the 5th one was the shot-for-shot.
Was the shot-for remake. No movies since then, but they did do a TV show in 2013 called Bates Motel, which is put it in a contemporary setting. It takes place in 2013.
Okay.
And it ended up being pretty well received. I liked it, but it strays from the plot a lot.
Okay. Cool. Psycho.
Now
that is stuff that screams are made of. Is there anything we missed?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, we went through everything.
Okay. Would you ever stay in the Bates Motel other than the creepiness?
Yeah, why not?
Have you stayed in a motel like that? I have.
I think I probably have.
It was nice. Anyways, thank you for joining us for the stuff that screams are made of. Please join us here whenever we do this, and then we'll share the links and stuff like that. Come to Tuesday Night Terrors on the second Tuesday of the month at the library.
Yep.
Where we talk about this stuff in real life. And you could share your thoughts with Mark and me, and I'm just a guy that goes there, but it's Mark's thing, and I convinced him to do it in front of cameras. But thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for screaming.